Hey everyone, I'm just going to post a little update on what's been happening since my last video, because there were a few gaps in that story and I probably need to fill them in. It's been pretty crazy. I'm actually at a carols by candlelight event at the moment, but obviously it's not dark and it's not candlelight yet, so I've just snuck off to take Pixie for a little wee break and to video a little update. So what happened was RACV roadside assistance, if the car cannot be repaired at the nearest depot within 72 hours, then they will authorize you to get what they call a recovery tow, which is a tow for my car and my caravan back to my registered home address, which in this case was northwest Victoria. So I've just come basically from one side of Victoria to the other, and it was a huge drive. Obviously wanted a different tow truck driver from the one that had towed the truck. So when I got picked up from the side of the road at Beechworth, Peter, the RACV tow truck driver, he pulled me and the caravan off the road with just like a big huge strap thing attached to his car. I can't believe his car was strong enough to pull Effie and my caravan off the road, but he did it, and I was just steering it while he did that. He was really lovely, and he dropped. So what happened was we separated the car and caravan from the side of the road. He then towed my caravan and me back to the caravan park, set me up there, and then another tow truck driver called Tony went back to get the Effie, and he's the one who took it to his depot, which was at Yarrawonga, which was an hour away, and that's the one that I was dealing with on the phone. And honestly, he just kept calling me incessantly. Like, he called me while I was trying to check in at the caravan park. I said, look mate, I'm in the middle of trying to check in, I'm very frazzled. He called me 15 minutes later. He was basically calling every like 15-20 minutes constantly, like, what do you want to do, what do you want to do? And then the next morning, Saturday morning, the phone calls, you know, I had like 6 missed calls. It was just, I tried turning my phone off because I really just needed some sleep, and I'd sort of said to RACV, can you just give me the weekend? I just need to rest, and can we sort this out on Monday? What a Christmas, hey? Yeah, so Monday I finally sorted everything out, and RACV agreed to send me. At first they were telling me that they'd send me a rental car, and you know, because I was like, I don't want to do this drive in one hit. I'd had other things I wanted to do. I wasn't planning on going from one side of Victoria to the other in one day. I still had another at least week or two on the road. But in the end, it was just easier for them to send another tow truck. So he put, you know, Effie on the flatbed of the truck and hooked the caravan onto the back. It was really uncomfortable for me to spend 6 hours in the cab of a truck with a strange man. I have PTSD quite badly, so it was a very awkward and uncomfortable situation for me. And it was awkward and uncomfortable because I've got this tailbone pain, and it was very bouncy and uncomfortable in the truck, and it was a really, really long trip, and everything about it was making me very uncomfortable. I'd barely slept. I was so anxious and nervous about doing this trip. A pit stop and a wee break at Warrenook Lakes, and look at beautiful, 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 like I always remembered it. Love it. And onwards the journey. I'm just gonna go and check the caravan and make sure everything's all right. I'd asked him to please stop at Warrenook Lakes because I was concerned about what the inside of the caravan would look like. Because we were bouncing around and I was really worried, and sure enough, when I opened the door, it was like, oh, catastrophe inside there. All the cupboards had flown up. Some of them won't even shut properly now. There's so much damage, and I was pretty grumpy at that point. We went from Warranook to Donald, which is only about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes down the road, and as we went to turn right from one street into another, he noticed in the side mirror that the caravan was on the ground at the front. It was scraping along the ground because the chassis had snapped where it meets the brand new drawbar. And because of the distance from the tow truck to the caravan and it towing it along, where the new drawbar joins onto the chassis has completely snapped off. And the caravan's dead now as well. I'm really trying to hold it together right now, but this is bad. We're about an hour away. There's nothing holding my caravan on anymore at all. That's the new drawbar, and that's the chassis, and it's snapped on both sides. It's like, just, yeah, there's nothing holding it on. It's dead. Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like, what the hell else could possibly go wrong?
We haven't got far to go. You'll still be able to use it, but we'll just have to go off the front rather than use the drawbar and jockey wheel.
Yeah.
Which again we can do with that, so we can set up again for you to get it to a new spot.
I'm not going anywhere forever now. Far out.
The welder will be able to set up okay.
I don't have a good feeling about this at all. At all. Honestly, I'm kind of over this. So he wanted to keep towing it at that point. Like at first he was like, oh, I think if we just take it easy and go really slow, you know, it should be right. And I was like, yeah, nah, I don't have a good feeling about that at all. Like the drawbar was sitting right up like that, smashed into the front of the caravan. His idea was because he had a mechanical tow ball on the back of his truck, just lift it up higher and it'll be right. It was like, that was the problem. It was sitting at this angle the whole way. A caravan should be level, like the wheels and the bottom of the caravan should be level with the road. And when I'm towing it, you know, I have a tow hitch that makes sure that it's level the whole time. He had it jacked up at a 30-degree angle. It was a nightmare. I had said to him, I'd warned him about these backcountry roads and how bumpy they're notoriously bumpy, that they go to narrow one lane, that it's harvest season and there's silos and tractors and farm equipment and big heavy machinery using the single lane road. And here's a classic example of the type of farm equipment that you see on the roads here at the moment. And there's another one over here. It is so big. So huge. So yeah, when that's coming towards you and there's only one lane of road, you get out of the way. You get well out of the way. For a size comparison, that's the front wheel next to my head. That's 5'2" wheel. When a big heavy farm equipment comes towards you and you know you have to get off the road, you'd slow right down, or I would, to like 30-40 k an hour, gently go off the asphalt onto the gravel on the side, stop, wait till the big truck and heavy machinery comes past the single lane, and then slowly come back up onto the asphalt. I'd explained all this to him, and you know, he just chose to just do it at 100 kilometers an hour without even slowing down a bit. And that was because he wanted to do the whole drive in one day, turn around after he dropped me off and go straight back to Albury, which meant he would have been on the road for at least 14 plus hours driving. That's a really long drive. So yeah, risks were taken, speed was involved, and the damage is extensive. A couple of minutes later he changes his mind and decides, no, we're just going to leave it there. Now the caravan's stuck.
The only other thing is on the front, because the drawbar's bent, it's pushing the bike back into the front of the van. I think we might just drop the whole lot because the frame's going to hit too and scratch up your van.
So he unhitches it, and luckily I had a tow hitch lock, and I said to him, you know, I'll put the lock on it. And he's like, yeah, we'll just get you and the truck to the mechanic. And then I had this bad feeling about leaving it behind. I did not feel good about that. And he goes, oh, have you got anything valuable in there? And I was like, yeah, mate, my whole life. like everything I own in the world, and we're just leaving it on the side of the road. Like, oh, I'll be right, I'll be back quickly, I'll drop you off and at the mechanic and I'll come back and get it. So that's what happened. He dropped me at the mechanic, dropped me in the truck at the mechanic. He went back, got the caravan, dragged it up the ramp, I put it on the flatbed, brought it to the caravan park, dragged it off, like literally boonk. Oh, my darling Priscilla. Dumped it on the ground and then took off. Didn't even help me set up. I was trying to work out how to jack it up and use axle stands, and it's still not sitting level. It's all wonky, but at least I could sleep in it that night, you know. Next day I called the insurance company. Hey guys, it's the morning after I got towed with the truck on the flatbed of the tow truck and the caravan behind. The whole caravan is bent. All the cupboards, the front door doesn't shut properly. There's a big gap at the top. My cupboard that the cooking, like my kitchen cupboard basically has a little flap door that comes down. It's not shutting properly. Like, my floor has got bulges in it. The whole van has been shaken up and twisted up. It's only an aluminium frame, lightweight little thing, you know. It's just not made for that type of, that kind of stress, you know. Neither am I made for that kind of stress. So it's been a rough night. Thankfully, those two axle stands, it's literally the only thing holding me up at the front end at the moment. I'm a little bit nervous because they're quite small. But what I ended up doing, you know, again, on my own, absolutely exhausted. I'd had no sleep the night before, just worried about this whole situation. And I had to use a jack and basically jack up one side, get the axle stand under there, at which point it would fall off the other side. And then I was going back and forth, trying to get it to sit evenly. It's still completely crooked. I feel like a drunken sailor in my caravan right now because I'm leaning down here and down at the front, and there's, you know, I've reached the capacity of I've reached the capacity of everything, to be honest with you. I've reached the capacity of the jack to get me up any higher. And at that point, when another woman came up and decided she was going to try and be helpful by telling me, you know, what could be done to repair the caravan, and I just lost my shit. People just assume because I dress pretty and my caravan looks like a friggin' 7-year-old's bedroom that I'm stupid as well. I'm not stupid. I know what the damage is, and I know what's involved, and I know I've already taken it to a caravan expert up in the Gold Coast to make sure that the chassis wasn't going to fall apart on me. Now I don't have the money, you know, I don't even have the money. The mechanic has looked at the truck, and he has confirmed that yes, it is completely burnt out, the transmission, and it does need a full rebuild. And you know, he's onto it. He's looking up the same places that I'd been looking up, on places that can rebuild it, and hopefully, you know, we can find all the bits required to build it. The thing that makes it unusual is that it's a C6 transmission. Is not particularly an unusual transmission. It's used in a lot of Ford vehicles, but it's an unusual combination to have the C6 transmission with the 390 FE engine, which is a big block engine, which wasn't so commonly used. It was kind of like a top of the range option. The first guy wasn't wrong as far as the pricing goes. That's about right. You know, it's about $3,500 to have the transmission rebuilt, and then you know, by the time the mechanic takes it out and puts it back in, you're still looking at around the $5,000 mark. The damage to the caravan, I do have insurance with CIL. I couldn't deal with it yesterday. I am going to give them a call today and I guess take photos and video of the damage. I know that the tow truck driver is worried that, you know, he's going to get blamed for that, or his company would get blamed for that, because he told me, oh, your chassis was completely rusted out, it would have given way even if you'd been driving it yourself. Well, I flat refuse that. Like, that's not true. I have been keeping an eye on it the whole time. I admit, you know, there was work I was going to do. I was going to wire brush it, rust proof it, but, you know, I drive knowing that my vehicles are old and precious. I don't drive like a friggin' maniac. and I don't drive like a maniac on the back roads off and on, you know, the difference between the asphalt and the gravel is like, you know, there's a good few inches drop, not to mention the potholes and the bumps that these roads have. You know, it just boom, 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 and I could feel it. Every bump up the front was like hell on my tailbone. And as that moves down the line of a very long tow truck and off onto the very, you know, very springy, I've been told before, it ricochets and magnifies. It's like a wave. It just builds in intensity as it goes down the line. So by the time it gets to the caravan's just going like that. Ideally, really, if I'd thought about it and realized that this had happened to me before with a vintage caravan, I would have asked them to send 2 long bed trucks and load it on a flatbed and not have it towed behind. Again, my mistake. You just get so exhausted and you just want to get it done, you know. That's how they get you, these tow truck drivers and people. They just know you're exhausted and you can't stick up for yourself. So I'll call the insurance company and go through the whole rigmarole. I don't know where to from here. There is a time limit on the caravan park here, 57 days. I spoke to the manager yesterday and he said, look, Lisa, don't stress about that. I'm sure given your circumstances that we can work around that. It's not towable. I don't have a vehicle to tow it. Luckily, it is walking distance to the shops. I'm where I wanted to be. It's just not exactly the way I wanted to be here. You don't mind being in a remote location when you know that you can just go anywhere at any time. But it's a little bit different when you can't. When I'm in brain meltdown and everything gets too overwhelming, I really don't actually need to talk. I need some time out and I need some peace and I just need to not think about it for 1 minute. And I needed some sleep, and I just felt like everyone was trying to offer solutions, and I was just like, my brain is overloaded with the stress and anxiety and the grief and the despair, and I can't deal with solutions right now, and I can't deal with everyone trying to tell me that everything will be okay. If I hear another person tell me that everything will be okay, and, you know, or to keep my chin up or look on the bright side, or you know, I was at the point where I was going to scream. And I've always believed that even the bad things had a purpose. I always believed that I was protected, that I was guided, that I was being looked after. The whole way, that faith was so strong. I've worked really hard to just make the best of a crappy situation, becoming homeless and having health issues, and I've really worked hard on this caravan to make it beautiful compared to the ugly little duckling that it was. I've worked hard with my truck. I've done the services and I've kept it maintained, and I look after my stuff. I got a new drawbar, brand new drawbar put on the caravan. When you have old cars and old caravans and you're a woman on your own, unfortunately, you're a pushover as far as most people are concerned. And I mean, it's not to say, you know, I'm sure guys get ripped off too, but I've had more than my fair share. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this in my videos. Why do I even do this? I try so hard to get out of this victim mindset. I try so hard to put a positive spin on crappy situations. I try so hard to look on the bright side and to feel thankful and grateful for everything that I've got. But I am feeling like a victim at the moment. I'm in a safe location, everyone, don't worry about that. But I just don't feel like the world is a safe place for me to be in on a daily basis, to just try and do anything above and beyond, probably just become like those other caravan park full-time people that, you know, were here when I first came here, and I was offered a permanent place here back then. They don't do it anymore. There's no more permanents allowed now, but I watched the other permanents that sat here, and they were older than me. All they did was watch television in their annex from sun up to sundown, walk their little dogs around the perimeter of the caravan park and go back to their television. That was their life. Once a week they'd take their car down to the supermarket, they'd buy their groceries, they'd come home. And I sat here and I watched them and I was like, I'm not ready for that. I had a chronic health condition where I thought I was never going to walk again. For quite a few years, I was in such excruciating daily pain and immobility, and I thought that was going to be the rest of my life. You don't know how much that impacts you unless you've been through it yourself. I thought then that my life as I knew it was over. And then because of these biological drugs, and now because of the change in my diet, I've been given a second chance. My body works, and it still hurts from time to time, but compared to what I thought my future was going to look like, I thought I had a lot more life in me, and I really just wanted to experience as much as I could. Because when you know how quickly it can change, when you know how quickly it could be just taken away, you want to make sure you do everything that you wanted to do, just in case. See all those beautiful things you wanted to see, explore the countryside, meet those interesting people, go to those festivals, dance, sing, make music, laugh, watch sunsets, climb mountains, swim in rivers, swim in oceans. Do all the things you wanted to do. Because you don't know what tomorrow brings. And when I finished my bucket list dream trip of completing the whole of Route 66 by myself from Chicago to LA in Doc Hudson, the 1953 Hudson Hornet, with a 1957 vintage caravan behind me, the day after I finished that trip, I woke up and I couldn't walk. The day after. That's how quickly my world changed. So, yeah, I live big. I live large. But it was because I could. And because I knew what it felt like to not. Maybe other people are more content to just live in their small suburban life and go to their 9 to 5 and come home and watch the news and cook dinner and go to bed and do it all over again. That's never been me. I've been off on adventures and doing my own thing and going on crazy adventures since I was a teenager. I wanted to just juice every piece out of life. I always knew somehow, even back then, that I was here to appreciate it. That was my life mission, was to enjoy this ride, everything that it gives you. Don't have regrets. Don't sit there wishing you'd done something or tried something or seen something or been somewhere. Bloody do it. Don't wait till tomorrow. Just do it. And that's all I wanted to share, and that's why I did what I did with the videos and the magazine and the book and the constant stories that I tell people, is to encourage you all. Get out there. But I'm broken. I mean, my car and my caravan are broken, and it's broken my spirit. And I know it's only the day after. It may be in a few days and more sleep. No talking to humans. I cannot talk to any humans at the moment. I'm in total cave mode. I'm not going to be coming out of this caravan. I'm not going to have the phone on. Maybe I can muster it back up again. Like, I really feel like I'm losing my faith. And I'm losing hope. And there's only so many more times a girl can pick herself up when world knocks her down. It just, eventually you just go, hey, I'll just lie down this time. It takes a lot of effort to pick yourself back up when you've had something happen, and eventually you're TKO'd. That's how I feel. I called the insurance company and I put in a claim, and there was a repairer nearby, a welding company, engineers that does a lot of farm equipment and stuff, so they're very busy at the moment because of harvest. but he came out and looked at it.
It's pretty fresh, bits that I can see that it's a fresh break. But being towed by a tow truck, particularly at speed and on and off the edge of the road,
yeah,
will certainly have been a will certainly have been a factor in it for sure.
Yeah.
It would be repairable, certainly.
Okay.
Just a matter of how best to sort of go about it. Obviously, this part of the chassis here
is
got to
no
go
good.
back. Well, yeah, it's got to go back up to the to meet the floor.
There's a piece of the actual chassis that's kind of been almost knocked out of place, and a bit of a gap between the floor, which is why my kitchen cabinets weren't kind of closing the way they used to before this journey. So yeah, it's actually affected the that part of the chassis, which we've just discovered as well. So more to the story, he pretty much confirmed that there is extensive damage underneath due to the way it was being driven, and denied the fact that this tow truck driver was saying, oh, that chassis was rusted all the way through, that would have happened even if you'd been driving it. And I was like, nah mate, it wouldn't have. And you know, I'd had Brendan at Retro Caravans check it out for me and just make sure it wasn't going to rust through anywhere, and he'd assured me that it was fine. I mean, he said it's an old one, I would get underneath, wire brush it and rust proof it, put rust converter on it, but other than that it should be fine. So yeah, I'll give you more updates as I know, but so far the claim is with the insurance, and fingers crossed that they're going to cover the repairs. You know, for that caravan, it's looking at around $4,000 worth of damage at the moment. I just keep discovering more and more damage on this caravan. Like, I just went to get something out from the under sofa cupboards, which I'd only just, look at this. Look, that's daylight out there. There's like a huge gap. This is so bad. It just gets worse and worse. And the other thing I noticed when I took the bicycle off yesterday, I noticed this hole, like a hole punched into the front of my caravan, which is where the bolt, obviously, when this drawbar, like, it flipped upright. So you can see the damage here, where it shoved the bike rack into there and into here. So this bike rack was like shoved up against there. So that was shoved up, and it's literally punched a hole in my caravan. The truck is at the mechanic. He's taken the transmission out and sent it away to somewhere else that will actually fix it. Obviously Christmas is, you know, around the corner, so nothing's going to happen, at least for the next few weeks, because everyone's going to have a big break over the Christmas break, and I can't go anywhere anyway, so looks like I'm having a big break too. But I'm feeling less frazzled, trying to just stay calm in amongst it all and try not to catastrophize too much, which is challenging for me. But for now, I'm going to go sing some Christmas carols and try and get into the Christmas spirit. So thanks for all your caring, loving messages. It does mean a lot. And yeah, it's been really tough mentally, very, very challenging for me. But I'm still here. So Merry Christmas, everyone.